Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Oswestry Town Council meeting on Wednesday, 14th of January 2026 at 7 o'clock. We'll start off with public participation session. I can see that we've got some members of the public in here tonight, and we've got one person trying to join on Teams. So, as per, we have 15 minutes public session. We'll politely request that members of the public keep it to around 3 minutes each, and since we've got a lot to get through tonight, we will we also ask that if your item has also been discussed, then please refrain. I'll ask for the first person to stand, go to the nearest mic. If they state who they are and where they're from, that'll be brilliant. Thank you.
So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I think we've only got one speaker.
Okay.
And just a reminder to everybody.
Microphone's on.
I hammed that up. Les, do you want to come to the mic?
No.
Right, good evening, Councillors. I'm here tonight.
Microphone.
There you go. I'm not getting as bad as Ollie. No, I'm here tonight because people in Oswestry are worried, and right they are to be. Residents are being asked to accept a significant rise in the council precept. At this time, services are being offloaded from Shropshire Council over to Oswestry Parish Council. Council taxes rising discussed above 4.99 limit without a referendum. This is on the Shropshire Council side of things, so I'm talking about both here as well as Oswestry Town Council. And household budgets are already stretched to breaking point. It's time to be honest about what is happening. Shropshire Council says it's effectively broke. Services are being cut, responsibilities are being pushed down to parish councils as well as town councils. And yet, the solution being presented to Oswestry residents is simple. You pay more and you pay twice. More of your perks you already use. More of your services that are already provided and funded elsewhere. More without clear mandate, proper consultation or a guarantee that costs won't rise again next year and the year after that and the year after that. We were told this is about local control, but local control without local consent. It is empowerment. It is cost shifting. Residents haven't been given a straight choice. They haven't been asked whether they support this scale of expansion, this level of spending, or a sharp increase in the precept. Instead, they are being presented with a fate, accompanied and told it's for their own good. At the same time, people see headlines of tens of millions of pounds being spent elsewhere in the county, while Oswestry households are asked to dig deeper in their pockets. That breeds anger and frustration and complete loss of trust. There is also a serious question about fairness. Oswestry residents would be paying more council tax to find services used by people well beyond the town council's boundaries. People who don't want to be paying a penny extra themselves. This is not, I can't even read now, sorry. This is not transparent and it is not sustainable. No one is arguing against well-maintained green spaces or decent local services. What they are arguing against is asking residents to pay a significant amount more without honest consultation, without a clear long-term costings, and without reassurance that this won't simply come as a new norm. Once the precept goes up, it rarely comes back down. So tonight I urge councils to pause, listen and rethink. Slow down with the process and engage properly with residents. Be honest about the risks as well as the aspirations, because if the council pushes ahead, bringing people with it, The message residents will take away is simple. Discussions are being made without them, without them, not with them. and that is not how local democracy works. And before,
Just to warn you, Mr Maguire, we're almost reaching the 3 minutes.
yeah, that's fine, I'm nearly done now. And before Shropshire councillors, which you all hear, say anything, before Shropshire councillors come with the rhetoric of the Tories left us in a mess, they can't say that. One, I can hear you smirking, but don't smirk, this is serious. One, they left the council with a balanced book. If they were struggling financially, why did they give themselves a 3.6% pay rise? And on top of that, they took on 7 extra deputy portfolio holders with a cost of £100,000. Now, the idea there is obviously to make life more simpler and get things done more quickly and efficiently. But I, even though I'm no longer a councillor, continuously get messages asking for things to get done because they're not being done as efficiently as they should be. So I ask councils to really think hard before they accept this proposal. I would also like to just quickly, if I've got a couple more seconds to go,
If you can make it brief.
just to say that I have seen on the agenda that the Oswestry Town Council would like to put money towards the library. Well, Oswestry Town Library is not under threat, so why are we doing that? The small parish council ones, yes, they are, but the Oswestry Town Council, Oswestry Town Library is not under threat, so I don't understand why you want to put money aside for that. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr Maguire. We will certainly take it on board during tonight's proceedings. As you all know, we'll discuss this later on, and you are more than welcome to stay to listen to that. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak, please? Nope. Anyone online? Nope. Okay, so we'll move to the business of the meeting tonight. We'll start off with item 2, apologies for absence. Aaron.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. We've got apologies for absence from the Mayor due to work commitments, Councillor McKinney, who is poorly, and Councillor Brindley, who has a family illness.
Thank you, Aaron. I move we adopt these apologies. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Froggatt. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 2B, disclosure of councillors' interests of any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I will start with myself. I've got nothing to declare, and I'll move to my left and work my way around the table.
Councillor Bruce Goodlad,
Microphones, please.
Councillor Goodlad, no interest to declare.
You don't have to declare if you've got no interest.
Only if you've got an interest.
Councillor Duncan Borroman, member of Shropshire Council. I have a dispensation until the 31st of May to discuss and vote on Shropshire Council related devolved services.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Wendy Owen, I'm also on the Shropshire Council, and I have also been granted dispensation to discuss and vote on Shropshire Council services related items.
Thank you.
This is going to become repetitive, isn't it?
Most likely.
Councillor Mark Owen. First of all, I have to declare that I'm Vice Chair of the Northern Planning Committee on Shropshire Council. And as previous speakers, I also have dispensation to speak and vote on Shropshire service delegation related matters.
Thank you very much.
As portfolio holder for housing and leisure, I will be declaring an interest in items 8C and 8E, and I won't take part in the debate or vote on the matter. However, I have been granted a dispensation to vote on item 9.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm Councillor Duncan Kerr. I have completed the form and got a specific dispensation in regard to agenda item 9 because I'm a member of Shropshire Council. I would say on the other declarations, my reading of the email we all received on 22nd of October is that dispensations have to be specific to the agenda item on a particular meeting rather than generic for a whole time period, because a generic dispensation can't take an account of the item on the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Councillor David Walker, I've got dispensation as a member of Shropshire Council for the any matters relating to the devolution of services.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 3, minutes. To seek approval of the attached minutes from council meeting on 10th of December 2025, OTC/08/25. Who wishes to speak first? Councillor Owen.
Move we adopt with no changes.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Goodlad. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 4, subcommittee/working groups, Youth Services Partnership Panel, to note the attached minutes YSPP/03/25 of a meeting of the Youth Services Partnership Panel held on the 15th of December 2025. Before I go to the floor, I'll just ask, was a markets performance and liaison panel held at the same time, or was that separate?
Separate meeting.
Yes.
Separate.
It's mentioned there. Are we adopting two sets of
No,
minutes?
so just the Youth Services Partnership Panel, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Who wishes to speak? Councillor Moore. Moved. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Wilson. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. No worries. Item 5, library briefing session. To note the attached minutes as Appendix A of a meeting of the library briefing session held on the 17th of December 2025. Who wishes to speak? Councillor Wendy Owen.
Move we note the report as
Thank you. Can I have a
written.
seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Goodlad. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Number 6, to answer any questions in accordance with standing orders upon which formal notice has been given.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. There are no questions been raised.
Thank you very much. Item 7, Oswestry Town Council consultation outcome to consider the reports TC/4397/26 from the Town Clerk and the Communications and Marketing Officer. So, who wishes to go? Do you want to introduce this one, Aaron? Yep.
I think members, and I hope members are pleased with what has been achieved. Certainly from an officer's point of view, it's been a positive experience, and I believe we've had some really good, rich feedback from members of the public. I seem to be informed about and engaged in Oswestry life and Oswestry business. Really important that we take note of what they're telling us, include them in our thinking when we're coming up with new projects and priorities. And yeah, I think we need to take a great deal of confidence from doing this work, undertake more work of this nature. And I think from members who stood on the Bailey Head giving away free trees, I think he found it quite rewarding and positive. So I think it would be useful to carry out similar exercises in the future. So try to keep a very simple response, very simple report with 10 key findings. Not sure it needs a great discussion, Mr Deputy Mayor, but happy to try and answer any questions if there are any. The only recommendations are we should do more of this and more often, and also that I can't remember what the other recommendations were. Let me just dig it out.
Sure.
I don't think there was there another one?
Aside from undertaking this work more often to support informed evidence-based decision-making in response to it, there are no recommendations.
No recommendations, so
No
there we go.
recommendations,
Yeah,
so-
thank you very much.
So, firstly, before I go to the floor, I'll just thank yourself and officers for doing this work, bringing it together, and and again, I myself was involved in some of the stalls during the days in question, and yeah, it was a very, very productive day, and we had a lot of interested people, certainly. So, who wishes to speak? Councillor James Owen.
I simply move that we note the report and the fact that there's a lot in there that I think we can use over the next 4 years. But I would consider that we should keep in mind that having some more market stalls throughout the 4-year term, where we just keep it sort of a pulse survey of residents and allow them to have their say throughout the term.
Most definitely, yes. Do you have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour of that? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 8, notices of motion. We'll start off with 8A.
I move a notice without motion to alter the agenda order. I think your clerk will concur that I can move that as a notice without motion, and I'll explain the reasons for that. My motion will be to move item 9 to include all the items 8. So item 9 will come forward, but in considering item 9, we will consider all the motions in items 8A to E.
Okay, firstly, do you have a seconder for this? seconded by Councillor Mark Roberts, who wishes to... Councillor
Speak to
Owen?
my motion now?
Oh, you first, yes?
Yeah. I think the reason for this is purely operational. It's nothing to do with denying anybody the right to raise the points they need to raise in accordance to their motions. But if we just look at the first motion not only commits, sorry, the second motion, 8B, 8A doesn't commit any money actually, but 8B commits £30,000 and then goes on to say where that should be funded from. Well, you can only do that if you fix the whole rest of the budget, because you don't know that the rest of the budget will require funding from additional rise. We might find other savings in the rest of the budget which precludes and makes that irrelevant. So it's always with a budget, you can't fix it in parts, you have to fix it in a whole. You can have the discussion over parts, but in that agendaed item you need to fix the whole, and that applies to each. If it's carried on as is printed on the agenda papers, we will have the budget discussion 5 times. Because 5 times we will have amendments and discussions over where it's funded from. I don't want that to happen. I'm sure nobody wants here around that to happen, but that's a consequence of treating those as separate items. Because if you then fix one, because it becomes a motion that's then voted on, it then becomes binding and can't be rescinded. You know this, 6 months forward and bites on it. So you cannot determine it in a series of bites. You have to determine it in one motion, in one item. And that's why I'm very pragmatically and very sensibly, it doesn't make any influence on what the decisions are. It just says, as a sensible way of handling this, let's treat it as one agenda item. That's my motion.
Thank you very much. And does the seconder wish to speak on this?
No comment.
Okay, we'll go to the floor. Who wishes to speak first? Who wishes to put...
I probably need to come in and just talk about the issue about preempting the budget. I have had that conversation with Councillor Kerr. I think I need to make it very clear to members that if the motions are supported, they go forward to the draft budget and then they're voted on separately as part of the draft budget. I see, and we have a difference of opinion on this. Obviously, if they fall at the motion, then they cannot be considered as part of the budget because of the 6-month rule. So, and I think I've had that, I've raised that with each of the proposers of the motions, and I've raised it with the chair of this meeting. So I think just make clear that's how I'm seeing the motions moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Owen?
I simply won't be supporting this, as I don't believe that the motion that he originally spoke about is actually on the standing orders. It's not moving the agenda items, it's effectively removing all of the motions and then recreating them within another agenda item, and therefore I don't see that we can vote on that legally.
Okay. Who else wishes? Councillor Kerr?
I'm up at the end if there's anybody else wants to make a point.
Who else wishes to speak? Looks like it's... Oh, Councillor Goodley.
I propose we move to Councillor Kerr's summation and then straight to a vote, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Kerr?
It's up to the clerk whether it's an acceptable motion or not up to Councillor Owen. I don't think the clerk's ruled it out as an unacceptable motion, so it sits there as an acceptable motion. It's a pragmatic way of trying to do it forward. And I just honestly think if you put your party membership aside and just try and find a way that we can all work together in common sense and make good use of our time, you'd accept the motion.
Okay, so you summed up, moved, seconded. Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? Against?
I will do a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Any abstentions? 1 abstention. The motion is lost. So with that, we now move to the original motion in the name of Councillor Mark Roberts.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, did you wish to... Oh, I see. Right. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Carry on.
fantastic.
Carry on.
Yeah, so I've not got no big hard sell on this. Dog mess is a big issue on my particular ward, Carrickcleuth ward. Previous councillors have tried to tackle this problem previously and approved that. My solution to this is just copying what Whitchurch Town Park does. They have free dog poo bag dispensers there. Seems to work. I have no data on that. But my motion is that the town clerk investigates options for citing these dispensers. Costings of that don't amount to a huge amount of money, that use biodegradable bags, and yeah, looks for sites where they would be, where we can situate them, but also where they would be effective.
Okay, thank you. Does your motion have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kerr. And does the seconder wish to to speak?
Speak now. If you look at the consultation we've just referred to, you'll see that 61% of people, which is one of the very highest responses, says it is very important that we deal with dog fouling. So if you're going to listen to residents, that's what residents are telling us. I'll be honest, I think the last council we tried to deal with dog fouling, we failed. Frankly, it was a priority we had. We struggled to get support from Shropshire Council at the time. Maybe things have changed now. But whenever I speak to the public, dog fouling is a very, very major concern. And I myself know children who have suffered as a result of diseases caught by dog faeces. So it's not just a nuisance issue, it's a public health issue, and it's one people expect their town councils, parish councils to be actively dealing with. So I fully support the motion and I hope it succeeds.
Brilliant. It's been moved and seconded. Let's go to the floor. Councillor James Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this motion highlighting an issue that's persisted for years in Oswestry and across Shropshire. It is, however, puzzling to see a proposal to unilaterally aim to improve a service that Shropshire Council has a duty to perform, given its proposer and his new party's negative public statements around taking on services from Shropshire Council over recent weeks. I hope this change of heart means he'll be happily supporting the proposed budget later tonight. Despite this quandary, the issue of dog fouling is a real one that is already identified by the Council's project list and does plague the lives of residents across our town, especially on residential streets. I'd welcome working with Shropshire Council and others to seek to install these bag dispensers across Oswestry, especially in hotspots on residential streets. We can only install these on highways with Shropshire Council's permission, so it is again curious why their involvement has been overlooked in this motion. I also query the need for multilingual signage. Without knowing which languages there was intended to be encompass, I would suggest singling out specific languages is unwise and could imply that council believe those who speak certain languages are more likely to be involved in dog fouling. Several points also seem to me clearly populist and misleading points where you can deliver a much wanted service at no cost. And I feel that this is disingenuous to the public to imply. So I therefore propose to amend the motion to the following. That Council continues to recognise dog fouling as an ongoing issue affecting public health, local immunity and community pride, work with partners to educate residents on the responsibilities around dog ownership in public, aims to explore working with partners to provide dog waste bin dispensers in known fouling hotspots, supplied with bags made from biodegradable materials subject to suitability and environmental standards, supports the installation, maintenance and emptying of appropriately located and clearly marked dog waste bins or litter bins, particularly in hotspot areas, calls for clear and durable signage using plain language and universal symbols, and asks that as part of the existing Project B2 for a report to be brought back to members, acknowledging that the work programme may mean that this is not a short-term priority, setting out costs, environmental impact, funding options, pilot locations and implementation proposals.
Okay, so that's an amendment. Firstly, does the proposer wish to accept the move? Firstly, do you have a seconder?
No, I think we go to, does he accept it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to first. Do you wish to accept the amendment?
Not particularly, but I'd probably need half an hour to sit down and understand what he's talking about, but yeah.
It's a point of order. We've had this before. It's a very long amendment. I can't remember half of it. The poor proposer can't remember half of it. I say again, if people are come to this meeting clearly reading out a long amendment, please show the courtesy of bringing copies and then distributing them. You've got a copy of the motion. I can't recall your amendment now, frankly, James. You know, I can't recall one word of it. Why do you not bring copies? And I'm asking the clerk to ensure, you as mayor, to ensure that if we have this in future, we can all play this game, can't we? We can all come with very long amendments that nobody can question because they can't remember it, and it's just a complete waste of everybody's time. So I urge you as Mayor to outlaw any long motions that people are not courteous enough to actually bring copies of.
Councillor Owen, would you like to repeat it, but in summary for everyone here?
I think, if I may, I think there was a lot of the motion that was who's pressing the button.
Not
A lot of the motion was repeating what was in the original motion, so it'd be just useful to highlight the differences between your amendments. So what in particular would you want to take out from the original motion? I think that would be useful for the proposer.
Thanks, Akbar.
Would you like to? Microphone.
I've added the words continues to recognise at the beginning of the first point. I've removed the second point in its entirety. I've also removed the third point in its entirety.
Is this even necessary?
Under the standing orders, I have provided a written copy to the chair, which is all it requires me to do.
So I think the reason I'm highlighting this, obviously we've got a lot on the agenda, okay? I think we're asking somebody to accept an amendment, and I think they're finding it difficult. So let's just take a little bit of time, if you wouldn't mind. And you carried on explaining, that's really helpful because I need to make sure I pick it up as well. I know there's a written one here, but I think it just help if you carry on going through these, Councillor Owen. Just taking a little bit of time would be helpful, so we can all capture it. Just highlight the differences, and then we can go forward from there, if that's okay. And there is a written.
There's two.
Can you signify when you want to speak? I'm constantly flashing out.
Members are reminded to only speak when directed to by the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
You're very
I
welcome.
hope Councillor Carroll now respect that.
Do you wish me to start off from
Carry
the
on.
third paragraph? I have added the words continues to and change it to recognise dog fouling on the first paragraph, removed in its entirety points 2 and 3. I've added to supports the installation, maintenance and emptying of aims to explore working with partners to provide dog waste bag dispensers in known fouling hotspots, supplied with bags made from biodegradable materials, and then it continues. Under the supports, so supports the installation.
I've lost it again. I've got the deletion of notes and agrees. I'm just trying to understand where we are. The next one starts with Crest officers. How can we change that, or is that still in its entirety?
Councillor Roberts, have you had time to look through that?
I'm happy to just accept the amendment that Councillor Owen wants to make. If he thinks that they're going to be important to the motion, then I'm happy to accept those. But one point I would make is that aims to explore working partners, and can we just ensure that does that include CICs? Yeah, all local ones registered already. Yeah, okay, thanks for that.
Okay, so it's been moved, seconded and accepted by the original proposer. Does anyone wish to speak, or shall we go to the vote on accepting this amendment? Okay then, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? The amended motion as... All those against? Any abstentions? Carried. So, that's adopted. So, 8B, notices of motion in the names of Councillors Grace, Goodlad and myself. So, Councillor Goodlad.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I think the fundamental point of this motion is fairly clear, and it ties in to much of what came out of, or some of what came out of our consultation process, where we see yet again public transport is still an issue in the area. We also are in the situation now where the Future Oswestry Group has finally replaced is replacing the bus shelters at Oswestry bus station and improving signage. We finally now, with Oswestry and Shropshire working together, are getting the improvements into our bus services that people have sought for so many years. What this seeks to do is put more money into improving our transport planning and move towards something akin to the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan we saw there, where we actually have seen the town work consistently to improve public transport, active transport, planning transport routes, disability access. When you look at our town centre, we have real problems with persons who use mobility aids being able to navigate many of our pavements. It's an ancient town. We can't change those pavements, but what we can do is seek to mitigate and help people get round our town effectively, safely and comfortably. Transportation is key to people's well-being and health, their access to healthcare. It's key to the local economy, it's key to tourism. It's a fundamental part of everything we seek to achieve. I am expecting to receive an amendment this evening to one item, which I will be accepting. I'll let the mover make that, but it's to refine the point about links to the Orthopaedic Hospital and Gilbourne Rail Station, and quite rightly it's been raised that that part of this motion could have been worded better. On that note, I will leave this and let the next person speak.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goodlad. I will be seconding for the same reasons as well. This because transport and active travel are two subjects I am very passionate about here, and I am supportive of anything to improve that in Oswestry, so I will be seconding it for that. We will then go to the floor. I saw Councillor Kerr first, and then
I was going to move my amendment first, because it's a very short and simple amendment, and then if we get this out of the way, which I've discussed with both the mover and you.
Councillor Kerr, would you
Speak first? I think I should speak first. I might have an amendment to move myself, which I can move
To be
first.
fair, I saw you both put your hands up, so I'm going to go with Councillor Borman and then Councillor Kerr.
It's a really, really tiny amendment. It's just that under the section ensures the strategy focuses on where it says links to the Orthopaedic Hospital and Gilbourne Rail Station. We add the words integrated to train timetables for both arrivals and departures, because the integration part is important. I gave warning of this to both the mover and the seconder, and they informed me they were accepting it as an amendment anyway, so it makes it a lot easier for you to discuss the rest, knowing that the motion as is has already changed.
Okay, so I believe I heard you say you're wishing to accept the amendment, and so was I, so it's been moved, seconded and accepted, so I'll go now to Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of confused thinking going on in here, so I'll try and unpick it first of all. This is described as equivalent to the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan. We've got an equivalent to the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan. It's called the Oswestry Master Plan, and it was approved a year ago, and it's exact equivalent to the Shrewsbury Big Town Plan. What there is in Shrewsbury is a movement strategy that was deemed to be necessary as part of the North West Relief Road discussions. That cost, well, it was actually funded by the government, but it cost over £420,000. I say that because that gives you the sort of scale of funding you would need to undertake a strategy of that level. But separate from that, we have the Shropshire Bus Strategy, which sets out its proposals for public transport in Oswestry, and we have the Shropshire LC WIP, Local Cycling Walking Infrastructure Plan, approved by Shropshire Council following consultation with us in 2024, and which has already been partly implemented in the town, and contains a whole chapter on Oswestry, giving you specific details of where access can be improved and where infrastructure and cycling and walking can be improved. So there is no need to spend £30,000 on another piece of paper. Since we're not the Transport Authority, we can't implement it anyway when we get that piece of paper. And even if we did, we don't need £30,000 out of the council PSEP, because we don't need it next year. We could take it out of reserves as a one-off expenditure. But my motion is that instead of spending £30,000 on a piece of paper, we offer Shropshire Council £40,000 from capital to proceed and to produce more programmes from the LC WHIP. It's the LC WHIP that funded the works, you'll recall, that happened up on Unicorn Road with the improvements there. That's the sort of style of work that's included in the LC WHIP. By memory, there's about another 18 projects, which are all spade ready, ready to be rolled out in Oswestry. And we could choose one of those and offer Shropshire Council the equivalent of, we could offer Shropshire Council £40,000 from our capital programme to proceed with that. And that would not cost the ratepayers of the Shropshire Council anything at all. Wouldn't cost the ratepayers of the Town Council anything at all because it comes out of capital, because those are capital works. So that's my amendment.
So, we already have an amendment in place, and is
Okay, so Councillor Foreman's amendment, housing items included into the substantive. Councillor Carr has made an amendment.
Yeah, so
So we're now,
who wish?
you need to be looking to me.
Okay.
Okay, so on this.
Councillors,
Yeah, and there should be. So the amendment's been accepted, it forms part of the motion. This is a separate amendment. So it can be accepted or not. And if it's not accepted,
does the mover wish to accept?
no.
so there we go. So we go back to the substantive motion.
If it's not been accepted, but then it doesn't proceed.
No, it does proceed. I mean, that's up to the amendment to decide whether it's accepted. If it's not accepted, it then goes to a vote if it's seconded. I don't know how we run debates in this council. It's an amendment to the motion. If the amendment gets a seconder, it's then debated. If it falls, we go back to the motion. If it succeeds, it becomes the motion.
It has to be accepted, doesn't it?
No, it hasn't been accepted by the move of the original motion because a majority of people in the room may want to agree with the amendment, and the move of the original motion may not.
Shall we consult the standing orders?
I think it's going to get a torturous meeting, isn't it? But
Chair,
Was there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Roberts.
Okay, well, it hasn't been accepted then. So, okay, so it hasn't been accepted. So then, yeah,
it's been seconded. Yeah.
it can be discussed and go
Yeah.
to the vote.
can we just be clear what your amendment, the amendment is?
Yes, because
Yes, I'm happy to read it out. The amendment is to propose that Shropshire Council is offered £40,000 by Oswestry Town Council in capital for works to implement the 2024 local cycling walking infrastructure plan. That is Shropshire's plan in Oswestry.
Councillor Mark Owen.
By my reading of it, by my reading of this, it has nothing to do with the actual the motion itself. It's a completely separate motion. Therefore, it can't be an amendment. If it's nothing to do with this motion. It's a completely separate thing. It may well be valid in its own right.
Ultimately, it's down to the chair of the meeting to decide whether to accept an amendment or not.
Speak to that if as the mover, because the motion talks about footpaths, cycleways, roads and parking in Oswestry, which are exactly the things that the low LC whip talks about and specifies. So that's exactly relevant to what's in the motion.
So the question always is when an amendment, and that's trying to be sensible in all of this and move forward, is whether the suggested amendment negates the original motion. That's the question that you have to decide. It's been argued that it isn't, argued that it has. Ultimately, it's down to the chair to decide. I think where we're at, would it just be prudent to progress to a vote and then go back?
Money into this area, puts capital rather than revenue, actually puts more money in. It's ill within transport.
I think as the chair, I wish to proceed. Let's go to this vote and then we'll go back to the substantive motion. Okay. If it,
So what I read out is the amendment, so that becomes the motion.
Replacing the whole motion, not just stuff at the start of it or at the end of it. Clear.
Yeah, it replaces the motion with those words.
so it negates the motion.
Negate the motion because it offers money. The motion offers money.
It will negate the whole motion.
It will not negate the motion because it still offers money to Shropshire Council to invest in transport. It offers capital rather than revenue, and it specifies that will be in fulfilment of an existing strategy rather than funding a new strategy.
Right, let's put this to bed. All those in favour of the amendment? All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? It's lost. We go to the original motion. So the original motion has been moved and seconded to the floor, and I think I saw Councillor Owen's hand up first.
I think I disagree with the fact that it was replacing the whole motion, but it is a good idea. And therefore, I do think we should amend to include it within the other points, because I feel like it will benefit the people of Oswestry to have some capital money invested in the LC WIP plan. But I don't feel like it needs to also remove the rest of the thing. It's a separate plan. And the plan in particular should be focusing on accessibility, which LC WIP doesn't actually. So I would propose that we keep the motion, but add in the fact that we'll use 40,000 from our capital reserves and offer that to Shropshire to spend on the LC WIP installation in Oswestry.
Okay.
Let's try and find a way forward that takes us forward and progresses things, and rather than looking at procedures.
Do you wish to accept?
So,
He is offering that.
no, I'm talking to the deputy mayor. So.
Right. Do you wish to accept? Oops.
No, I didn't want that on my.
Do you wish to accept Councillor Owen's proposal? Okay, so it's been moved, seconded, and accepted. Who will? Oops. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not sure if it's appropriate to just bring this up, but we have dropped the EDI committee, which we have a lot of expertise within Town Council, Councillor McKinley, myself, within disability and accessibility, and I feel that that could have been a way forward to advise on what would be beneficial to the residents of the town without incurring an additional cost going out to external contractors.
Okay, thank you. Who else wishes to speak? Councillor Wilson?
Hey, you have to excuse me because I don't understand a great deal of what's going on, and I wish people would just get on with it. But there is one thing that worries me. B, C, D and F. All of these motions say to be raised via an equivalent rise in precept. Is this just some magic money we get out of the sky? Do we know each time we go for one of these motions, do we have to think, oh, we're raising the precept by this much? And so by the end of these 4 motions, and excuse me, this is only what it looks like on paper. By the end of these 4 motions, we then raise the precept by an awful lot more money than we'd already planned at the very, very good meetings, and I think sort of collegiate meetings that we had with our clerk about the budget.
Thank you. Who else wishes to speak? Otherwise, we will now go to the vote. Moved, seconded and accepted. All those in favour? Against? Okay, carried. Thank you very much.
So just to be clear, then moving forward to informing the draft budget. So there's £30,000 towards the development of a movement and public space strategy. That's to be delivered in partnership with the Future Oswestry Group, so that will have to come back. So you're not saying that we are going to do that in isolation, so just be clear on that. And the £40,000 obviously it needs some controls around that spend. Just being clear what projects. So it's enough, if it gets through the budget and it's coming out the Smithfield windfall, which I'll just make a note of, that would be offered to Shropshire Council. They would identify projects or work with us to identify a project, and then we would sort of release that funding based on we'd have to agree it. I think, is that okay, Duncan? Is that where you sort of saw how it working as well? Yeah, okay. All good to move forward on that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 8C, notice of motion in the names of Kerr Johnson. Oh, Councillor, for the purposes of the meeting, Councillor Owen is leaving the room.
So a few of you will already be aware, but over the Christmas period, I have been working very closely with the Rough Sleeper team at Shropshire Council to aid a couple of individuals in Oswald Street who are homeless. And the frank conversations that I've had with them, alongside my own personal experiences, having been homeless myself in the past, made me bring forward this motion that I've been investigating since way back in July last year. Anybody can become homeless through no fault of their own. The panic, anxiety and stress it brings that cannot be described. I want to really make sure that there's a safety net for residents of Oswald Street. Should the worst happen to them, that they know that there's somewhere they can go any time of day, or night, or any day of the year, in an emergency, to receive support from our county's Rough Sleeper team. Having learned a lot about their work, when they receive a referral around someone thought to be rough sleeping, trying to catch up with the person in question, to have a chat and discover this situation can be quite time consuming due to rough sleepers often moving around during the day. This means long outreach trips can result in missing the individuals, with the financial time and environmental impacts of these journeys taking a toll. It's for this reason that I'm hoping that Council can support working alongside the Rough Sleeper team to install, maintain and purchase, if required, 2 pods that would allow for emergency overnight accommodation for rough sleepers, making it more likely for outreach workers to be able to contact those in need and providing an alternative to hotel placements. Other councils that have done similar projects have previously budgeted for around £20,000 in ongoing maintenance costs for these pods when they've purchased 4. So looking to purchase 2 is why I'm asking for a contingency of £10,000 for Oswestry Town Council to manage or contract out the management of these pods in year should other funding streams not be available. I hope that members here tonight can support this cause to offer a safe net for all residents of Oswestry should they need it.
Okay, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Goodlad. We'll go to the floor. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go. Do you wish to speak? No, I reserve my right to hold on to it until. All right. Who else wishes to speak then? Councillor Wilson.
I think these are a fantastic idea, and I'd really like to see something like this go forward. You talk about working with people. So would they be putting in the safeguarding and all those sort of issues with it? Because obviously you're going to have worries about drugs, alcohol, illness. There's a lot of safeguarding issues to go along with things like this. And is that something that you think the council will put in place, or who are you thinking of as to work with? And will they be working with the safeguarding?
Councillor Johnson, do you wish to reply?
Yes, so I'd be working with the Rough Sleeper team at Shropshire Council. Yeah, everything from the referrals.
Okay. Who else wishes? Councillor Mark Owen.
Thank you. I have to admit, initially I had concerns about this, but having read it more carefully, I too think it's a great idea, with the suitable safeguarding in place and all the details which would be thrashed out as a result of this moving forward. Things like the locks, I think they're digital locks, and they get changed each time they're used, so you don't get people going back to it all the while. One thing I do know from personal experience is if anything's bad's going to happen, it usually happens on Christmas Day, or at a weekend, or New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. It's when the homelessness team are most stretched. And so if they have the option to be able to have a safety net to take somebody who is vulnerable rather than have them sleeping in doorways, I think that's a really good idea. So I wholeheartedly support it. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Roberts?
I'd just like to say, when I read the motion, it looked very familiar to what other councillors had previously discussed. So I'd just like to say, if we do put motions forward, that other councillors maybe get acknowledged if it has maybe come from them.
Okay. Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, I think we'd all have sympathy for this motion and wish to support it. My concern here is that we've got a number of motions. We've just moved one, which has got significant workload implications for the clerk and his staff. And my question to the clerk is, has he been consulting? Has he had an opportunity to ascertain that £10,000, for instance, is a robust estimate of the genuine costs to the revenue of managing these pods? How has he assessed that figure? And ditto on, we'll talk about the other figures in the other proposals, otherwise I'll keep asking him the same question. So have we got robust information to be budgeting on here? It's not that it's a bad idea, it's that our role, before we tax people, is to make sure we're doing it on robust and evidence base, and that's what we look for the clerk to do. Separate from that, I do have to have concerns. The clerk was telling us at the last meeting that we are in serious issues with not putting sufficient resources into Lewin Mansions, and if we don't get the grant for that, we'll be millions of pounds adrift from where we need to be. And if all these are going to go through, and this was one which will have significant workload implications for the clerk, because there's no extra staffing being provided in the motion for the clerk, there may have to be some further report, I expect, to council reprioritising existing priorities, including the ones that have been prioritised made by this council in the last few months. So we can't do everything. Even if we can find the money to do it, we are limited by the resources we have to the clerk. So I repeat my question to the clerk. Can you assure the council that these figures in this item and in all the other motions come to that are robust and you've had a chance to examine them?
I generally prefer not to answer direct questions such as that. However, I think given it's been put to me and the time between the motion being submitted and today, I've undertaken some research. I've undertaken some research in the past with other councillors as well, and I've looked into these. But as to the robustness of the information and the costs, I do not know, because I have no additional information. So I can't provide. I think a difficult question for me to answer. And I have liaised with the rough sleeper team at Shropshire Council and understood whether these were a possibility informally, but I haven't got any indication of the cost. And in terms of workload, yeah, I think I have mentioned to a group already that I have concerns of capacity and the fact that we're landing a whole host of projects in one go, and our previous experience has been that in that case we don't actually progress anything. So I think as a council we're going to have to really think carefully about how we resource some of these, what comes first, and our ability to deliver everything that you're asking us to deliver. Is that okay?
Councillor Moore?
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but as a couple of people have mentioned, previous councillors working on this. It is myself who's working on this previously with Councillor Almett and Councillor Radford. We're having a look at some of the prices of these pods. It was something we decided to sort of leave a little bit, as with so many projects coming forward. It was very difficult to ascertain exactly how much everything was going to cost. And we just didn't have a robust enough case to bring it forward as yet, hence no motion being tabled. But one of the other concerns was raised by Councillor Almett, which is very similar to that that's been raised by Councillor Wilson, is the safeguarding things. Councillor Almett actually has experience of this in the past, working with, I believe, the church. He used to manage a couple of properties which dealt with some homeless people, emergency homeless accommodation, and this posed quite a few additional issues which required a lot of management, to the point where the church changed the policy on doing it. You stopped providing those properties, didn't you, at least in the interim? sorry if I'm speaking out of turn on this, you'll have to clarify exactly what, but you were going to have a look into some of the other things. We were going to then bring it to council. So I feel like the motion, although Councillor Johnson's motion is very welcome, I think it's a good idea. I'd absolutely support it as a motion. I have no desire to take it back as my own because I'd just rather see it done. I'll happily pass on the information that I have to yourself and you can take it forward, but I do think that Councillor Armett has some really important points on this, and if we are going to take it forward as a council, a lot more thought needs to go into it than we could at this point. So I'd actually recommend that we defer this motion, and it can remain in Councillor Johnson's name, that's fine, but defer it for a later date, because pushing this forward now when we don't have any real numbers or anything like that, it's just not how we can really do things. But yeah, if Councillor Armett wanted to come in, that'd be great.
Councillor Elwood?
Yeah, I'm very happy to pick up the points raised there. The church did a project with homeless people which involved using a charity to buy a house and putting recommended people in on a long-term basis who were homeless. It's absolutely right that this was a challenge at the time, but fundamentally this is different from what's been recommended here. The challenge at the time was that basically those people were in that property and that was their place then to do whatever they wanted with. Once they'd been put in, the support and control of them was through individuals who were simply volunteers without any real robust form of controlling it as necessary, and consequently there were significant problems such that in the end the church decided they could no longer support it, particularly because of the amount of work required by volunteers. This particular project from Councillor Johnson is significantly different from that, in as much as this is simply one or possibly, I guess, 2-day use. It's very short-term use. This is my understanding, and perhaps Councillor Johnson can just confirm that, but it's very short-term use for emergency only. Issues around safeguarding are clearly significant issues, and as highlighted, that would be taken up by the team in Shrewsbury. But the demands on individuals, and therefore the kind of risks and challenges that we faced as a church and frankly could not cope with, are substantially different from what's actually been suggested here. So the points made were correct, but in terms of looking at it and looking at the balance, the responsibility effectively is taken on by Shrewsbury.
Thank you. I see Councillor Johnson's got her hand up, so what I'll do now is to move on. We will sum up by asking Councillors Johnson and then Goodlad for their comments.
Yeah, it is not a permanent solution at all. It's meant as a stopgap until the rough sleepers team can come out and vet those that are rough sleeping, which sounds like a simple process. It's not actually a simple process when there's someone that's uncontactable without a phone and you don't know where they are. So it is just a temporary thing. Apologies for not being able to read other councillors' minds. I didn't realise that this was wanting to be a motion before. It's never been brought to my attention. The reason I brought it today was because I've spent the last couple of weeks day in, day out having to deal with the rough sleep team, and I don't think it should be deferred because homelessness doesn't wait for anyone.
Councillor Goodlad.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Briefly, just about the import of this motion, I think everyone has agreed this is very important. What I would say is, owning a pub, as I think you're all aware, in a town centre, we actually often see people who have become suddenly homeless. People who, due to domestic breakdown, adult children who've been thrown out by parents, potentially by a step-parent, people who perhaps live with abusive partners, we see them emerge late at night, and you see dazed, confused people who don't know who to ask for help, who don't know where to go, often who have no personal belongings with them or very limited, have limited funds with them, sometimes without a purse or a phone or a wallet, and they literally come to a pub for somewhere warm to shelter while they try and find someone to help them, and they are confused and frightened. These pods are designed to deal with an acute crisis situation. As Councillor Johnson has said, these are people who are being kept safe and secure until the rough sleeper team can come and assess their need, their viability, and how they progress through the homelessness route, and how we get them into a safe, secure, long-term placement. Again, as Councillor Johnson raised, some of these people are uncontactable. If they've fled a difficult situation, they don't have a mobile phone with them. They don't have a permanent address. They have nothing in many cases. Or they have a ramshackle bag of things they've grabbed as they ran out the door. Putting people who are in this crisis in a safe space overnight keeps them safe from abuse, from predation. The vagaries of our weather. Can you imagine being homeless in the snow we've just had? Can you imagine in that weather having to sleep in a shop doorway? Because people do every night. We have no services to meet that need in Oswestry, and time and again when we face crisis like this, people say there's nothing in Oswestry, people have to get to Shrewsbury. As Councillor Johnson has very rightly said, homelessness doesn't stop for a council agenda. It happens daily. Some good questions and points have been raised in the room. The question about cost, Councillor Johnson has been doing some research on this, and when she dug into it, we found that in the case where 4 pods are installed, the budget for maintenance for a year was 20,000. So 10,000 was an estimate based as suitable for 2. There may be some loss of economy of scale in that, I grant, but it seems a reasonable starting point. I do recognise the point that Councillor Kerr made and welcome the call to prioritise the project plan. I think we should bring that back to our next council meeting and go through the ongoing projects, because I think we do now recognise that the Clwyd Mansion is taking up an absolutely horrific amount of the clerk's time, and we should go through the project list and get that more manageable and controllable. Very good point. And then just to follow up on Councillor Wilson's point, which is very fair about the safeguarding and security of people, it is using the existing expertise of the experts in the rough sleeper team, who again there have been initial conversations with about this, and they've explained the problems they have in getting up and down the county to assess people, and when people don't have anywhere to go. So actually having a point where homeless people can stay safe and secure until they are assessed would help reduce some of the pressure on them. But it is using people who are appropriately police checked, who have the skills, who have a framework that they work within to assess people and keep them safe. That has been assessed. I do urge people to support this motion, and thank you so much for all the work you put into it, Claire.
Okay, so we've summed up. It's been moved and seconded.
Motion to defer, I don't know if that was seconded, or is that still the motion?
Do you wish for this to be an amendment?
No, I think they've satisfied my concerns. To be honest, the only other question I had, if anyone has any ideas where these might go, because obviously then that's a whole other question. I mean, by the centre was potentially one of the sort of thoughts that came to my mind. But no, as I said, I think it's a good motion, and I'm keen to support it. I don't want to stand in the way of it. I just want to understand it.
Yeah, we accept the need for a report, and the main concern we had, it had to be somewhere that was secure, because not only to safeguard the pods, but to safeguard the individuals in them. But that would be something to be ascertained by the town clerk, a suitable area. And there's no tie to a specific spot or place. There's no Machiavellian master plan. It's an appropriate safe space as agreed with officers.
Okay, moved, seconded. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 8D, notice of motion in the names of councillors Richard Elmett and Grace Goodlad. James.
Would you prefer to take the other item where?
Would
sense.
would group prefer to take that one and rather than? Okay.
Rather than James going in and out like a protocol.
Okay. Shall we wait until he comes back?
I'm going to grab some more water while we talk.
Okay.
Or do you want
We
to
will.
proceed
We
with
will.
the plan?
Well, we could start talking. And
Oh,
then
he's back.
yeah.
He's
Right.
back.
We will proceed with item 8E and then go back to D, and then we'll bring Councillor Owen back. So, notice of motion in the name of Councillors Grace Goodlad and Duncan Borroman.
I'm the mover and Grace is the seconder of this.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Do the mover and the seconder wish to speak?
I'll speak now, and I presume you're reserving. Yeah. Before we start, I wish to make a very, very tiny amendment to my own motion, which is the line, therefore, it's proposed to the council, where it says budgets to provide £25,000 to the library service. I wish to delete the words "to provide" and delete the words "to the library service." So it just says budgets £25,000 to reduce any impact, because the way this reads basically stipulates that the money would go directly to Shropshire Council, and that is not the intention that it necessarily does happen that way. So that is an amendment that obviously the proposer and seconder have already agreed to, so we're amending our own motion. We've had an earlier report that we agreed to from the presentation that we had from the library service, and it's a shame that Mr Maguire has left, because that does refer to the threats to Oswestry Library, not just the ones in the surrounding area, and there are references to that to possibly cutting of hours. This motion is very much about protecting a service for local residents. It has been queried with me that it doesn't look great, the chairman of Shropshire Council moving a motion to take something away from Shropshire Council, but really this is just about ensuring that we protect this service. I've also seen it suggesting, it was actually mentioned by Mr Maguire earlier, people talking about things being paid for twice. That obviously isn't true. You know, the funding that Shropshire is raising is going on keeping essential services going, and if stuff gets cut, that isn't money that is coming from Shropshire Council's precept. I've also picked up an inference on social media from someone in this room that some of these things were being brought forward because people wanted better paid jobs at Shropshire Council, which is something that I really find quite despicable to be suggested, but there we go. So I think this is a crucial motion to ensure that if Oswestry Library was cut by 1 day a week, and this is the equivalent cost of a cut of 1 day a week to Oswestry Council, that we can maintain services at the current level for the residents of Oswestry.
Okay, so moved, seconded and accepted amendment. Who wishes... Oh, do you wish to speak now or at the end? Right. Who wishes to speak from the floor? Councillor Kerr.
Point of clarity, because we had a seminar on this, didn't we? And I certainly didn't leave that seminar with the impression that Shropshire Council have written to us and told us that there is a threat to close Oswestry Library for 1 day a week. I heard them talk a lot about Gabowen Library and the potential threats to Gabowen Library, but I did not hear any proposals to reduce any of the opening hours even at Oswestry Library. So where is the letter from Shropshire Council actually proposing this? Where is the analysis of the minimum level of service provision that deduces that will mean a 1 day a week cut in Oswestry? When we have that, I think it would be perfectly appropriate to consider this. I'm not opposed to consider it, but we consider it when we actually know there's a threat, not preemptively to tax people against a threat which may evaporate and not be there.
Councillor Borman.
I think you voted for item 5 earlier, where it says Mr Bamford provided an overview of the library needs assessment, highlighting some key facts and figures such as running costs, footfall numbers and usage. He noted that Oswestry will continue to have a library, but suggested there may be a need to consult on opening times. The mobile library may see some changes. Further down, it's noted that Shropshire Council were not seeking to devolve the running of Oswestry Library to the Town Council, but sought financial support or ideas stroke suggestions. There was quite an extensive part in that where he was talking about the possible loss of 1 day of services at Oswestry Library at that session. Sorry you can't recall it, but there is actually a minute here in something you voted for earlier.
Okay, who else wishes to speak?
Clarification, I didn't talk about opening times. There are reductions in opening times happening now because of issues in the afternoon. I said specifically there's no proposal there to reduce the library opening by 1 day a week, and there isn't. I've reread it. But anyway, we can move on.
Okay, so before I sum up, one more chance. Does anyone else wish to speak? Nope. Therefore, Councillor Borman, do you wish to say anything before I go to Councillor Goodwood? Councillor Goodwood?
I don't think there's no need to carry on. No points raised.
Okay, we will move to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. So we will now bring Councillor James Owen back in. And we will go to, once Water and Councillor James Owen, we'll go to item 8D.
Mayor.
Okay,
I'm on item 8D.
we are on item 8D, notice of motion in the names of councillors Richard. Thank you. Councillors Richard Elmett and Grace Goodlad.
I was just waiting for Councillor Borman to return to his
Right,
chair.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I start with an obvious statement? The greatest wish of Food Bank is that they stopped operating as they were no longer needed. However, that isn't possible at the moment and doesn't look like it will be in the foreseeable future. 35 volunteers help run Food Bank, and last year they gave out just short of 7,000 food parcels. Since April, they have supplied 37 tonnes of food in 5,000 parcels to 1,700 families, and the contacts and referrals are made by 144 different agencies. 45% of their supplies were donated as food, but the remaining 55% was purchased from financial donations and grants. And additionally, there are operating costs to cover, and the role of a community advisor offering financial and welfare support has been reduced. Initially, the Trussell Trust provided funding through a grant for, and this is a quote, organising and local mobilisation. The Samaritans Mental Health and Citizens Advice work in partnership in the neighbouring premises to provide additional support. Food Bank, frankly, provides an invaluable service. They also recognise that the Town Council has provided robust and positive support, to use their words, and this proposal aims to put that support on a more consistent footing. Additionally, this motion looks to investigate hiring a community outreach officer, which is a similar role to that previously funded under the community advisor at Food Bank, and to work with a separate current initiative to establish street pastors in Oswald Street, particularly focused on supporting the vulnerable from the nighttime economy. I recommend this to the council.
Okay, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Goodlad. Do you wish to speak? Reserve as usual, so moved, seconded. We will now go to the floor. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I appreciate the efforts for this, and obviously I appreciate the Food Bank recognising that this council has been robust and positive in support of the Food Bank over very many years, and considerable sums of money. I think what happened when they came to speak to us in the summer, they made it clear to us that the financial year ending in April 2025, they'd spent 180,000 and their income was only 86,000. That worried me considerably when I heard. I think it worries all when we heard those figures. They've brought that back into balance by making cuts to the community engagement posts and the community advisors. I know from speaking to Liz, it's those posts they would like to refill. And in case we think that's not the key business is providing food, they calculate how much extra money they're able to bring in food benefits through those posts. And last year they brought in £90,000. So it's £90,000 coming into the pockets of people in need as a result of the sessions and advice they received. The year before, actually, it was even more, it was £112,000. This year it's just £30,000. And the reason is because they've had to cut both those two posts. So I fully support, in fact I'll probably go further, I think we need a better long-term relationship so we as a council better understand that the issues to face of the food bank and all the agencies, the churches as well, and many other agencies who work to relieve poverty in the town. And I'd like to make a sort of added suggestion or amendment. They'll actually form some sort of group, of a small group of councils who can meet regularly with them on a one-to-one to share with them and try and work out how we can best support them. Money's great, but there may be other things the council can do with the food bank to support them in their work, and I wouldn't want that opportunity to be missed. So I hope graciously I'm offering that to you as something to go with the money and go further, because I've always thought that they are, well, they're life and limb service. They are saving lives out there, and we're extraordinarily fortunate to have such dedicated and resourceful volunteers and such a magnificent manager of Ansingo Praises. She's not here in terms of having the vision to take that service forward. Sometimes she gets paid. I know there's been times in the past she hasn't got paid. She's still continued to be exemplary in her commitment to the town. So there's an amendment, I suppose. I'll ask you whether you're opposed to accept that. Because clarity, the amendment is the council looks to form some sort of working group, call it what you like, liaison group, I don't really care what you call it. You can name it, but basically some members are prepared to sit down with the food bank, with the churches and other people active in that field to see how can we all work together to protect the most vulnerable in our society at a very difficult time.
Does the proposer wish to accept the amendment?
Yeah, I'm actually very happy to accept that amendment. I think there is a lot to be gained by working with agencies that aren't currently necessarily fully engaged with the council, and there's got to be benefits to it. Quite what that shapes like, I'm not sure, but I think Councillor Kerr's amendment is, as it were, vague enough that we can shape that as it goes forward. So.
Okay. Councillor Roberts?
I fully support the motion and echo Councillor Kerr's comments. But I was just wondering, when Liz came in, she did mention that a lot was spent on rent, a large proportion of a budget, and whether there are any facilities or anything with the town council that they can offer that maybe would reduce the costs that they're incurring.
Yeah, I think perhaps that can be picked up through the ongoing dialogue with Liz and the team down there. I know I've spoken to them about this in the past. I think just a note, sort of process-wise here, just need a few controls in place to trigger the payment and some reports back, because it's a grant, isn't it? So there needs to be one or two conditions, such as payment of £25,000 if requested. So I think that, and for them to spend however they wish, but need to report back to council.
Normal grant conditions we've imposed, which is to report back.
Yeah, happy with that.
Okay, so...
Yeah, I'm very happy with that.
And am I to take it from you, Councillor Roberts, you are seconding Councillor Kerr's amendment?
Yeah.
Accepted. Oh, right, well, in that case, I will go to the floor and then we will sum up and allow the original mover and seconder to comment. So who else wishes to speak? Okay, do you wish to, or shall we just vote? All right then, all those in favour? I'm going to ask a really silly question, say anyone against or abstentions? Clearly not. That is unanimous. Thank you. And then, finally, notice of motion in the name of Mark Owen, item 8F.
Thank you, Chair. At the moment, I found out, Oswestry Town Council doesn't have the policies necessary to take on any additional street lighting, for whatever reason. So this motion really is being put forward to put procedures in place so that we can consider that. What I'm not trying to do with this motion is take on all 1,300 Shropshire Council lights in Oswestry. It'd be nice, but as somebody's already said, we can't pluck money from the air. So the new development on Shrewsbury Road is actually quite a good example of the kind of thing I was considering. Many places, I've been told by the planners in Shrewsbury, go to the local town and parish councils when they're doing a new development, and they offer the street lights as to be adopted by that town and parish council. That doesn't seem to happen for Oswestry Town Council. So it automatically goes straight to Shropshire to adopt them themselves, or what's more likely nowadays, because of the financial position, it's put into a management company to be managed by effectively the residents themselves. There's quite a few problems in that, but I won't go into too many details because it can be more of a discussion for a later date. One thing I would like to do, if you don't mind, as the proposer of this motion, I too would like to make a slight change on the first bullet point. Rather than putting to adjust the policies, I feel that developing the policies would be more appropriate. So I'm just replacing adjust for develop. Simple as that.
Do you wish to accept your own amendment?
Yeah. I'm sure I've got a seconder as well. Yeah, that's fine. That's quite all right.
Carry on.
The local control of the streets, certain street lighting, is actually quite a flexible way for a town council to move forward. It means that we can deal with lights most probably on a more responsive time frame. I don't think the residents really mind too much who deals with their lights, as long as the lights stay on, or if they go off, are repaired as quickly as possible. So all I'm trying to do is make a more responsive approach to those lights, to make sure that we can get them dealt with as quickly as possible. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about that. I so move.
So it's moved by Councillor Mark Owen. Can he have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Johnson. We will go to the floor. Councillor Wilson.
Again, I just admit to complete ignorance about anything to do with planning. You say that they're managed by private companies. So are the private management companies, are they paid by the developer? Who pays the private management companies? So it's the developer. In a way, why are we looking for money for us adopting them when actually it's the developers, you think about the new one, which shouldn't, I wouldn't mind adopting them, but why can't, why can't the developers pay us then if we're adopting them, rather than the management company? Why do we need extra money for it? That's what I'm asking, because I don't.
That's fine. The management companies very often are set up initially during planning to take control of things like the streets, the road, and also the street lights. If the management company is set up initially by the developer, then it's the residents who have to pay a management fee in order to keep that management company looking after their roads and their lights. So it means that we aren't at the moment offered the chance to look after those lights. It automatically goes to Shropshire, or more likely to the management company to start with. I know that the Shrewsbury Road one, it is going to a management company because it was set out in the initial planning, outline planning, as a section 106 or whatever they call it. And it stipulates there that the management company will be set up to look after it. And I believe they have to have that management company for 18 months at least in order to debug things in the road and make sure it's functional properly. And after that time, things can change accordingly. If after that time we are in a position to adopt, I'm sure that we could put an offer in to do that. All I'm asking for is a certain amount of money to give us the flexibility to do that. At the moment, we don't have that flexibility.
Okay, anyone wish? Councillor Kerr?
I think this is probably the most dangerous motion of the lot, really, but just go through it one at a time. So if you want the council to adopt street lighting for 700 new properties, I mean, the reality is we're not going to be actually going out there and maintaining those lights. That'll be a contract whoever, whether it's Shropshire Council or us. But I have fought for a long time to get Shropshire Council to adopt some lights over on Lutton Close. They wouldn't adopt them because they didn't meet the adoption standard. And that's what you'll be faced with. Are you going to pay for these lights to be brought up to the standard they should have been built to because the developers made a fast buck by building them cheaply and then charging people for the privilege? You're just lining the pockets of developers if they can say, oh, this is great. 18 months after I finished, Oswestry Town Council will come and take all these difficult street lights off my hands and maintain them forever. That's got me a nice out. I could have built them to adoptable standard and got Shropshire Council to adopt them, but I can save money by building them to a lower standard, and hey, the Town Council will just come and bail me out. You won't be helping the householders, you'll be helping the developers enormously. And we're just not set up as a Town Council to take on that number of additional lights. It's not the role of the Town Council to do so. We pick up basically lights on footpaths. The Highways Authority picks up lights on roads. We've traditionally picked up other lights which are on footpaths and byways. That's obviously the sensible thing to do. So we should not be developing a policy on adoption. We should leave that to the Highways Authority to develop a policy on adoption. We should certainly not be adopting a lights that have already been adopted by Shropshire Council. You're developing a phased approach to adopt any street lights that are managed by Shropshire Council. There's thousands of them. If we're going to take responsibility for all of those, you're going to need a great deal more than £20,000, not only to adopt them, but to maintain the electricity to those and to maintain them in perpetuity. It's extraordinarily expensive and will become more so in the future with the price of electricity as it is. So I think this is another area I'm going to have to ask the clerk the same question. He'll probably give me the same answer. As the clerk had the opportunity to look at the data behind this, to look at the numbers of lights that have to be adopted, to look at the policies he'd need to have in place, to look at the staffing he'd need to manage that contract, and to look to see whether £20,000 isn't at all realistic in terms of a budget provision to do this work.
Councillor Owen and I have met and spoken about these. I have raised Councillor Mark Owen, just for clarity, raised a number of questions which we're working through. I think if members were mindful of adopting this notice of motion, there needs to be appropriate safeguards in place, and then it's a case of the policy would have to come back to council, setting out all the implications. I have undertaken some investigations and some research. I can't offer that reassurance because I haven't got the data. I think, yeah, as I mentioned, there needs to be appropriate controls, particularly around adopting the Shropshire Council ones as requested by local members as well. I think there needs to be a clearly defined process around that, just to avoid any breakdowns in relationship and the way that the council works, put bluntly. So no, I can't say whether that £20,000 is right or wrong.
So without any reassurance from the independent clerk, we are taxing people. Well, I'm finished my point. Yeah,
I'm conscious that once Aaron was finished, I saw the hands going up, so I was going to go in the order that they were in, if that's okay. Do you yeah.
The adoption standard for streetlights is agreed in planning right at the outset. In other words, they have to be built and put into place to a certain standard even before Shropshire Council will agree to actually take them on. So it is a little silly to say that they're fleecing us and lying in their own pockets, because they wouldn't be allowed to in planning in order to set up the certain standard of a streetlight. We currently have 400 streetlights. They're not on paths. Well, one or two of them are, but mostly they are on streets. They are on the highway, if you like, on pavements. So to say that we don't deal with that and we only deal with paths is absolutely ridiculous. And as far as I said at the very beginning, I wasn't going to take on 1,300 streetlights from Shropshire. That's silly. So to even suggest that we're going to take on thousands of lights is actually not correct. The ones that I would consider, for example, would be like Maple Avenue, where the first half of Maple Avenue are town council streetlights. They're on the pavements, they go all the way down. There's a new development at the end of Maple Avenue, which are Shropshire lights. They were put into place as a new development, and Shropshire at the time had enough money to adopt them and take them on. It's that kind of thing rather than taking en bloc. I would not suggest that at all. I'm suggesting the initial procedures be set up to allow us to, as and when required. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I had hands up, so I saw Councillor Wendy Owen's hand up before, then I'll go to Councillor James Owen, then I'll go to Councillor Moore, then I'll go to Councillor Kerr. Sorry? Your point has already been made. In that case, Councillor James Owen.
It's kind of a repeating point, but I know that there's a lot of streets in my ward that the town council manage the lights on. If you want to tell them residents of Balmoral Crescent that Shropshire runs their lights, they're probably not going to get an answer from them for a while. So there are lights that we manage. They're 6 metres high. They're the same standard as the ones that we manage ourselves. So there is an overlap, on highways, for example, down to Salop Road, there's 10-metre lights or 8-metre lights. Those are ones that we probably wouldn't be looking at this point, as they're clearly not out of the specification that we're currently looking at. Just from reading what I understand of the motion, so I just wanted to add that point.
Okay, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Couple of things. So, I think it's great to obviously have streetlights working. Who gets them? I think that's where things are going to start getting muddy potentially. I mean, we've got a responsibility to equality as well. So if we end up with 6 streetlights going out in one area and 6 streetlights going out in another, we end up adopting one half of them. We have to then adopt the other half. It's going to be very difficult to pick and choose which ones we can and can't take on whilst maintaining equality. So that's certainly one sort of part of it. We also said with the adjust policy to seek that the town council adopts street lights on new developments. Does that mean in like all new developments, so say for example the hundreds and hundreds of houses that are going up on the edge of town at the moment, that we just instantly seek to just adopt every single one of those street lights just because it's a new development? Because then again the equality kind of question comes in, like what about the older estates and the other residents who have been here, these are Oswestrians who've been paying council tax in the area for decades arguably, but yet the new residents who just move in straight away get nice new shiny town council running around fixing their lights kind of situation if we take those ones on, but not take on the ones in other estates, if that makes sense. I feel like there's a good risk here for a lack of equality around this, and again I don't think that we just can't take on a ridiculous amount of these lights. So where do we cut the, where does the line start and stop? And again, I think same as a few of the sort of things that are being pushed through, is that we don't have numbers, we don't have policy, and they're just being voted through, and I just don't understand why we're here. It just seems very pointless to be even sitting in these meetings, because it's like we don't have the numbers, we don't have the policies, don't matter, just vote it through. It's like it's just painful.
You may wish, yeah, you wish.
Provide answers that you've actually asked about. The hundreds and hundreds of new lights, I can only speak to the ones I've seen in my ward. We aren't being offered to adopt those because it's already gone through planning. But with the phase 1, we're talking about 70 lights. We're not talking about hundreds. I mean, it's smaller. I'm assuming that we are going to have more new developments. I mean, the government's policy is to kind of show them in left, right and centre. I would like Shropshire to at least ask us if we would like to adopt. We can say no, but it's nice to be asked, isn't it? And if we then say, yes, we can put that into the budget and we can actually take on the adoption, then great. At the moment, we're not even asked. What else was there? The management companies, I think, was mentioned. Yep, point taken. The management companies will charge the local residents for 4 or 5 years, and the lights will be in good condition, probably won't need repair. And at the end of that 4 or 5 years, it's probably been moved on to a different company and then a different company, because I found that out when I was trying to get a street light repaired. You can't always guarantee that the management company will repair those lights in a timely manner. So I would like to be asked to do this, at least, even if we subsequently don't have the budget to do it after so many years. Yeah, that's fine. Cheers.
Okay, I'm gonna go to, Councillor Roberts.
I just want to say that I feel this motion is very brave, because selling this to an electorate that you're going to increase the precept to adopt different streetlights, I think most residents would say that that isn't an effective use of public money. So.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Kerr once more, and then I'm going to ask the mover and the seconder to give their closing remarks, so then we can proceed.
I think it's become obvious the proposal's half-baked. We haven't got the details we need to tax people for this money. We don't even know how much money to tax them for. Specifically, item 4 says develop a phased plan to adopt any streetlights within OTC boundary that are currently managed by Shropshire Council if requested by a local member. So I think all of us on this side will bash in our crests immediately, and town council will have to adopt the whole lot, because that's what it says. That's what the motion, that's what the policy of the council will be. No ifs, no buts, nothing about the height of the meters, nothing about whether you think, Councillor Owen, it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. It just says that. And this is why it's so badly worded. So by all means, defer the whole thing, don't charge people, bring it back, and then we can have a proper debate around it. We can properly budget for it, and we might have a sensible policy. But to push this through and to tax people for something which is just as ill thought out as this is, which has the potential to send, well, he's here, but to send the clerk into another whole shed load of work, trying to work out what policy could possibly look like, trying to work out what the costs would look like, trying to inspect X numbers of lamps, because you're right, when they apply for planning permission, they say they meet the standard. Who tests that? Nobody, until somebody goes out on the street and sees whether they actually do, and then finds they don't, but they've already got planning permission being built, and there's no real comeback. And that's why there's thousands of houses in Shrewsbury, you know this, which sit there with developers and unadopted lights. And we will be picking up the tab for all of those. Developers will love it. So it's an appalling idea, and I just urge you to put the politics aside and just defer this and bring it back when you've worked out what you really want to do. Have a working party if you want. That might be one way of dealing with it.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak?
I think a year or so ago, the balmy idea of taking on the centre might have raised a few eyebrows. It seems to have worked out reasonably well, hasn't it? Maybe a balmy idea is needed now and again just to shake us up a little bit. As I said, I am not suggesting that we take on loads and loads of lights. I am trying to start the process. I am mindful, as has been said previously, that the office staff have a limit on their time. This process can at least be started. Even if it doesn't get done for 8 months, at least it can be started in this financial year. That'll do for now.
Does the second wish to add anything? Then we'll just proceed to the vote then. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried.
So just to be clear, as I see it, the priority is to develop a policy which will then determine everything else. Okay, that's the only way we can proceed. I may need some legal advice, and if I need that, I'll need to come back to you, because I'm not sure what the regulations are about adoption, as we've never been asked in my time here to adopt any. And certainly adopting things that are run by a management company already, again, is a little bit of an unknown for me. So all those issues need to be investigated as part of a development of a policy, and including the conversation with Shropshire Council.
Thank you. Item 9. Estimates of expenditure and income for 2026 to 27 and the medium-term financial plan. To consider report TC/4398/26 from the Town Clerk and responsible finance officer together with Appendix B, annual budget by centre. Council has to approve the budget for 26 to 27 and determine the precept requirements. You've got it all here. Aaron, did you want to introduce?
Generally do quite a long dialogue about the budget, but I'm not going to this evening. I think there's been plenty of discussion, and the direction of travel is clear. Budgeting can be difficult. It's a balance between firm plans that you know the cost of and some forecasting. We, in terms of our budget, think that we've produced a robust plan for you, which met what you'd instructed us to deliver, and I hope you found the report easy to digest, and it was clear what was being proposed. So where we're at now, is that we had a recommendation to increase the precept by 20%, and a one-off increase in car parking by 20% as well. that would see, based on the motions that have been brought forward and the recommendation to include those in the draft budget, would see then the precept be required to be £815,978, which would be equivalent band D of £147.73p, which would be an increase of about 40, I haven't done that sums, 40 pound a year, I haven't done that one. So that's what you're basically discussing. Obviously, everything is up for discussion, so you're deciding on the precept, fees and charges, and I hope we don't get any too detailed questions on things in the budget. I know there have been questions about some cost headings which have got no figures in there from one year to the other. What Helen and I are doing is trying to simplify our accounts so it's easier to follow. So, for example, there was a figure in previous years that said £12,000 wages on Old School House. Well, that was just a corporate recharge. So, and was fairly meaningless. So we've tried to make it simple and simpler as possibly can, because we need that, don't we, Helen?
We do.
So within here is also our reserve strategy and asking you to approve fees and charges. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but I think you may have a little bit to work through.
Okay, we'll go to the floor. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to be speaking on the budget that, alongside the inclusion of the motions that have just been adopted, demonstrates a clear commitment by this council to deliver a truly extraordinary amount of good for the town of Oswestry and its residents. While acknowledging the difficult financial situation at Shropshire Council, it's welcome that the new administration there is working to ensure that the service and asset transfers that town and parishes are longly begging Shropshire for are finally being shown an open door. One of partnership, local decision making and understanding that some things just never should have gone up to be run by a unitary council to begin with. It is just common sense that your most local council, us here in Oswestry, are much better placed and have the local knowledge needed to manage our open spaces, parks, play areas and more, much more effectively than overstretched offices in Shrewsbury, contracting out the work to the benefit of national companies who can profit from our local tax money. The budgeted plan in front of us tonight will ensure that more of your money will be spent here in Oswestry by those who live here and will be going towards improving and securing the priorities of residents. The consultation response overwhelmingly shows that the majority of the public believe that our draft priorities and strategies match their own. However, to deliver more, we need to ask for more funding via our precept and car parking charges to make these priorities more than just words on a piece of paper. We acknowledge that any squeeze financially is difficult, but hope that asking for a moderate increase of £264 a month or less for most households in Oswestry shows we are balancing financial responsibility in our budgeting with the financial realities facing residents. I do, however, wish to suggest that we do add an overnight parking charge of £1.20 to match Sundays and bank holidays between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. to remove the argument many developers have recently been making in planning applications that our car parks are suitable for residential parking simply because they are free overnight and therefore not including adequate additional parking in their application. With all of this said, I'm happy to propose this budget as amended and ask my colleagues join me in supporting the budget.
Okay, so do you have a seconder?
He does. I second.
Seconded by Councillor Goodlad.
Just for clarity on that amendment, so just so I'm clear, because obviously setting fees and charges, we have to follow a process. So that would be, the recommendation of the report was to go to 8 to 8 charging times anyway, and this would be from 8 to 8 would be £1.20 as a fixed charge overnight. Is that achievable on the system, Henry? Just question, I think it is, isn't it? But I just want to check. Yeah.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Goodlad, do you wish to reserve? Okay, and I'll go to Councillor Roberts.
The overnight parking, I've got strong objections against that. First, it probably won't bring in a lot of income because people just won't use it. They will use the streets like they do currently. And there's a massive problem with parking on streets and there are roads where fire appliances can't get down those streets because of the parking. I would move to change that so the parking fee only goes from 9 till 5, so the commuters, because it's mainly a commuting town, all those cars can then choose to park in the car park spaces, because they've been taken away with different developments. 20 years ago, there's probably a lot of parking around town. Those plots of land have then been built upon. So, yeah, I would move that we change it to 9 to 5.
Does the mover wish to accept?
I've made a note of that. Perhaps it might be good to just to see, is there any, if there's going to be any other discussion or debate on the budget.
Okay, we'll go to the floor then. Councillor.
I was going to say, I think there'll be a few amendments, some of which are small, some which are large. I'm just suggesting it might be worth voting on each amendment, otherwise you end up with a lot of amendments, and some might agree with one, but not 3. I mean, it'd be better to deal with the amendments one at a time. It's just a suggestion. You don't have to accept it.
I think that would be...
Yeah, I think testing the water to see how many amendments are coming.
Any of the small amendments come.
So if there's going to be more amendments, yeah, happy to progress. Happy to progress that. It's going to be a lengthy process. Let's do what we can to get through it. So, so there's been proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where it becomes a little bit messy. Yeah.
I mean, as I see it, that whichever way that we vote on Councillor Roberts's, then Councillor Owens remains a substantive motion or as amended.
No, because that's an emotion. Let's vote on Councillor Owens.
Okay then.
I think logically it suggests that if it's not going to be. But I understand that. But
okay. Well, we'll begin with voting on Councillor Owens' amendment first. Do you have a seconder? You have a seconder, Councillor Goodlad. All those in favour?
Speak to it, sorry. I didn't know going straight to vote, and I'd like to speak on his amendment because it was moved immediately.
We just had the vote.
Well, I feel it's unfair. I'm not allowed to speak on the amendment. I mean, it's right to speak. I mean, we're here to debate things.
Keep it brief, please.
Yes, exactly. This was the original situation when the Tories ran the council was we had an overnight charge. The reason it was abolished is because there's no enforcement of it. When you looked at the costs of actually sending somebody out at night to see which cars hadn't got tickets, you realised the council would lose money heavily by trying to enforce it. Some people in the town knew that it wasn't enforceable and got away with parking their cars for free. Some people in the town didn't know it wasn't enforceable and paid. It was highly inequitable. I can imagine who knew about it and who didn't know about it. It tended to be those people close to councillors who knew all about this little ruse and those who didn't. So I'm saying if you're proposing this, has the clerk assessed what the costs of enforcement are? Because without enforcement, it's inequitable for the council. And if he hasn't done, we should not be doing this now. We can do this at a later date. You can impose this charge midway through the year if you really want to do so. But until you know the costs of enforcement, you might find you're losing money by doing this. That's what we found out when the Tories had the same idea.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now, Councillor Mark Owen.
I do object to the comment that as a former councillor 25 years ago, that I would have my friends and family preferential treatment to park on the central car park and get away with it for free. I think that's a disgraceful comment. 25 years ago, yes, Councillor Kerr is right. There was a payment on the central car park and the horse market. It wasn't a fixed fee, as Councillor James Owen has suggested. It was the full cost overnight. It was a 24-hour payment at full rate. I think that if you are going to make assertions about former councillors and current councillors, you're on very dodgy ground, I'm afraid, Chair. I do object to that comment.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. So on that note, Councillor Kerr, do you wish to add or retract any of that, or?
The comments made and the council I was on, not 24 years ago, but the town council I've been on since 2012, and the direct comments I've heard made by councillors at that time regarding whether you need to pay to park overnight.
Okay, I'm conscious we need to move on with this now, so can we just proceed with the vote on Councillor Owen's amendment, and then we'll consider Councillor Roberts's. All those in favour? Against? Amendment carried. We'll now proceed to Councillor Mark Roberts' amendment. Does Councillor Mark Roberts have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Wilson.
So just to be clear, this is and I need to highlight this because it is a change of policy and a considerable change of policy from where we're at. So, you know, as with other proposals, I don't know the financial impact of this. And I absolutely forgot what I was going to say. My apologies. Yeah, if this motion is carried on, we'll have to have a look at the implications of doing so as part of the budget.
Just asking the town clerk to bring back a report to look at the costings for this, but I imagine 8 till 9 that won't make a difference, because people, if they're parking at 8:30 in the morning, they're probably going into the 9 o'clock period, and then yeah, it's only going to make it 5 till 6, and then people who are commuting home, they can then choose to park in a free space. Because if you go around town at 6 o'clock at night, you will see hundreds of spaces free and hundreds of parked cars parked on places on corners, making the roads unsafe. It just seems very illogical to not have those cars given the option to park in the spaces for free.
So just to be clear, it's only process. So that isn't a proposal for this budget. What you're proposing, asking, is for that to be investigated and brought back at a later date. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah.
No, it's not an amendment to the budget. As such, it is a proposal which can be considered. So it's a proposal, isn't it? It's not an amendment to the budget because it doesn't change the budget, but it's a proposal for how we might look at things in the
It's an amendment to the amendment you've made. You've changed the policy regarding overnight parking. That means we can make a further change to say we want a report from the council, from the clerk, on a different aspect of overnight parking. It's all become now game because of your amendment. It's all within scope.
I'm conscious time is moving on, so shall we just, a proposal or amendment, just vote on whether it can, whether it proceed?
Can we come back to this item? Would that be okay?
All right. Okay, moving on. Anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, sorry.
Who wishes to speak? Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. Few things about this. I mean, this is a very important day and a very sad day, I think, for Oswestry. We are faced with a budget which has taken on services when we really just do not know the detail of those. The town clerk's beaten himself into a corner trying to get accurate data, specification, TUPE information, clarification from Shropshire Council to be able to ascertain what might be the implications of taking on this development, and hasn't got that. So we are not really able to budget. It's said by Councillor Owen that this is about having a local control. Well, if the Liberal Democrats who run Shropshire Council want to have local control, they can set up an own in-house team to run this service with effect from April 2027 when the current contract ends. They don't need to do anything else, and they can work with town councils to enable them to have local control over those contractors. It's all in the gift of Shropshire Council. But they don't want to do that because that's possibly too much work for them. I have no idea. They want to go and float round, can you cut our grass for us and maintain our parks? And they say that if we don't do that, the standard will drop below anything we've ever seen very draconian language, anything we've ever seen possible. It would be like a jungle out there. Well, I have to say, what's going to happen in Ellesmere and Whitchurch and Market Drayton, where they're not taking on any devolved services? Well, they're not putting up, they're putting their precept up by about 5% in Ellesmere and Whitchurch. They're not faced with these dramatic rises in precept. And apparently, are they going to be protected somehow?
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Curry. Is this relevant to...
Yes, it's relevant to the motion, because the budget includes provision for devolved services.
Can we keep
and
it
I
to
think that
Oswestry,
should
please?
be taken out, and I'm explaining that other town councils are not budgeting on this basis, even ones controlled by the Lib Dems, and therefore there's no need for us to do so. What is the date? I mean, I think that the clerk has intimated the date, potentially, the only practical date for the start of this devolved service would be about August. Well, that means that by the time the service starts, the growing season will have finished just about. There'll be a couple of cuts left. So I don't even understand how this is going to make any great help to Shropshire councils, whose financial problems vastly exceed any savings that this would make, but it will certainly dump an extraordinary amount of cost and complexity on Oswestry Town Council. So I really do not think that this is the appropriate place to be having this debate, and we should not be doing this in the interest of Oswestry people, even though you might think it's in the interest of Shropshire Council to do it. That's it, really. There is one change, so I mean, that's my feeling about it. There's one thing I would like to add to the capital side, though, which I think on the capital side, we should be looking to invest in our parks more, and I would like to propose the sum of 70k is used for development of, and I just say development of sports
Can I just ask you to
facilities.
sum up, please?
Well, this is my proposal. It's a proposal. So I'm
Can
not
we-
summing up,
can
I'm
we-
proposing.
Can we
that-
make it brief?
I am trying to. I'm proposing.
Okay.
I have to read out my proposal. I'm proposing that we allocate a sum of £70,000 from the capital programme to improve sports and recreational facilities in Kye-Glass Park, probably including the resurfacing of the tennis courts, which are in quite a poor state now, but generally to obviously have a report back to the council to actually look at that, and maybe also include provision considering whether we can extend some facilities into Bryn Hafford Park as well. That's one part of my proposal. The second part of my proposal is to look at outdoor market stalls, and that was very much clear that the public in the consultation value our outdoor market. There's a real concern that our outdoor market is withering away and dying, and I'm proposing very minor but reductions to all current charges for outdoor stalls. And I go through them, and I have to go through them. I'm happy to hand it to you, giving the clerk a copy. So Zone 1 is currently £11.30, would go to £10. Zone 2 are Friday and Arts with £13.10, would go to £12. Zone 2 on Wednesday would go from £13.60 to £12. And Zone 3 Arts and Crafts would go from £22 to £20, and Zone 3 Wednesday £17 to £15. You might consider these small movements. I'm happy to put them around. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yep.
I was trying to be quick because I was told I hadn't got much time.
I said
So I can't get
summary,
it right,
not
can I?
speed it up.
I was told to speed up.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was told to speed up. Yeah, I do understand. I only did it because I was told to get on with it and do it quickly, so I tried to be quickly and got it right. Do you want to go through them again? They're very small changes. They're about a 10% reduction overall. What they're trying to do is make very clear figures that encourages people, particularly at the Bailey Head, where we're losing outdoor traders because they're slipping down the hill, to come back to the Bailey Head. So I go through them again. I hope it's pretty uncontentious. The total cost of this, the current clerk is estimated around 3,000. I think it will attract additional traders. I suggest we do it as a pilot for a year, fund it from reserves, and if it doesn't save us money or we're not happy with what it results in, we don't continue it. I'll go over them one more time then. Zone 1, currently 11.30, proposed £10. Zone 2, for the Arts and for Friday, currently 13.10, proposed £12. Zone 2 for Wednesdays, currently 13.60, proposed £12. Zone 3 for Arts and for Fridays, currently 22.70, proposed £20. Zone 3 for Wednesdays, currently 17.10, proposed £15. Those are my two amendments.
And does the amendment have a seconder? Councillor Mark Roberts.
I'll second it, but Councillor Moore wants to second.
I take it one of you two was seconding it. Right. Okay, moved and seconded. Who wishes to? Councillor Lawrence?
Thank you. I've got two things to raise. One on the earlier bit, I'd like to quote someone saying that we think bringing this work to the Town Council and take it away from commercial businesses that are only accountable through poorly managed contracts with Shropshire Council is the right thing to do. That's an excellent quote on the devolving of services by Councillor Julian Dean, Green Councillor in Shrewsbury, made yesterday online, where they have made a 99% precept rise at Shrewsbury Town Council. Maybe you should consult with some of your colleagues. On the figures, I'd like to ask the question, as the town clerk has only just had warning of these reductions being proposed in market stalls, has he had a chance to assess what impact this will have on the council's finances? Because Councillor Kerr has made this point and everything so far, so I think he should probably answer the same thing as to whether he's actually assessed what budgetary impact this will have.
Again, not keen on answering direct questions. And as with other members, I've spoken to a wide range of members. I've spoken to Councillor Kerr. He's asked me the question. It is a very broad, and I'll be honest, a very broad brush figure. There's no necessarily detailed statistics that underpinning it because I haven't had the time to look at that. But broadly, given the data and the reductions, it's broadly would take our outdoor market budget down from 20, let me just pick up the figure, from 20,000 to about 17. Is off the top of my head.
Say 3,000, I said he'd tell me that figure.
So we go from 21 down to 18. Whether we'd adjust the budget or not is debatable, given that there's a great deal of flexibility in that budget and not a great deal of margin. So, yeah, roughly the cost would be about £3.5 grand, roughly. Lots of caveats. Don't hold me to account for it.
Okay. Unless anyone wishes to speak, Councillor Elmett.
I think the idea of improving the performance of the market is fairly excellent idea and fundamental to trying to get the whole town moving forwards. But I guess my question is, what particular metrics and measurements would Councillor Kerr recommend and how we're monitoring the kind of impact that we'd like to see to make a difference to it?
Do you wish to reply?
I mean, I imagine this would be then part of a marketing campaign, because we've simplified and reduced, and we can put that out there that we're actually reducing. We will measure this by the number of people who take up stalls, to be perfectly honest, because ultimately it's the number of people who are coming to trade and take up stalls which will determine the lifeblood of the market. I know people out there have a view that we want this type of stall, we want that type of stall. That's a nice world to be in if you could choose what type of stalls we have, but I think we're in a situation where if we don't do something soon, there won't be a market Bailey Head, and that will have an implication for the indoor market as well. I've not included the indoor market because at the moment it's full, so there wouldn't seem to be a business case to trying to reduce any rents there, but their livelihood, I do think, depends on there being some activity outside, and I'm worried if we don't continue to invest and generate that activity, we will struggle with the indoor market as well, and we are a market town. By all means, go further. You know, this is just a budget meeting, isn't it? So it seemed to me one thing we could do. It's certainly not everything we can do, and I'd happily work with you on a wider range of policies to rejuvenate the market.
I'm going to go to Councillor Johnson and then to Councillor Roberts.
Looking at the prices here, they're very affordable, and as someone who does stalls quite often in small market towns, large market towns, in between, you know, school fields, these are at the low end. I don't think the issue is the price. I think the issue is the weather. The indoor market is quite busy.
Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Markowitz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Pricing, I just think it's obvious to have price simplification. The actual price that gets paid, obviously, that you should base that on how many stores you've got, and yeah, if there's big demand for it, then you can increase the prices. But yeah, price simplification, it just seems obvious to not charge £13.20 is a bit of a random figure. If I can speak about the investment in Caglos Park facilities, that just seems a very obvious choice if we've got capital reserves, spending that money investing in the town to generate income, which will be year on year. I think the pricing that we currently charge in Kyle Park for the facilities is probably appropriate just because they're so outdated. But if we spent the money there invested in the town, it would generate income from people wanting to use those facilities as residents, but also attract outside visitors at a weekend in the summer. I think it's money well spent.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Mark Owen, then I'm going to go to Councillor Wilson, then to Councillor James Owen, and then I want to sum this up.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think any of us would want to see the market keep deteriorating. I think any process where we can encourage, I think we would all jump on it. I keep hearing funding this from reserves, and it worries me because I've been hearing this from Shropshire as what's been happening over the last 5 years. They kept funding things from reserves, and then at the end of so many years, we find that there aren't any reserves anymore. And Shropshire, poor things, we, poor things, are virtually bankrupt as a result. So the only query I've got here is the funding from reserves. The actual going through the process of looking at ideas to improve the market, I've got no problem with it at all. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Wilson.
Little bit to say on both of them. I'm a tennis player, and when we can't play on the team tennis courts, we have to go to the town courts. I'm actually surprised you haven't been sued yet for liability. They actually are simply not safe to play on, and it's as simple as that. They shouldn't actually be open to people to play on, and that's from me. Also, with the market, oh God, when I was a child, it was full. It was absolutely teeming out there, and I know we're not going to get that back. But I think what Councillor Kerr has said is maybe it could be a little bit part of a push, an advertising push. And don't ask me how we do it, but to say, look, we're taking our fees down. We really want you to come. We do. Just it can be. It's a hook, and we need a hook for that outdoor market.
Councillor James Owen, and then I'm going to ask for the mover to sum up and proceed to the vote on this amendment. Councillor James Owen.
Thank you. I think I'm not going to go into the full Shropshire Council debate. It's been going on at every single council and in the press for the last 2 months. I don't really understand what Councillor Kerr is even saying. I don't really care, to be honest. At the end of the day, I know that what we're planning to do isn't what he's saying, and I don't feel like I have to justify that.
My amendment's about the markets, my amendment's about the investment in the park, not the motion. That's the amendment we're talking to, not talking to the motion.
I'm happy to talk to the amendment as well. I don't feel like removing £1 from fees is going to suddenly bring in 1,000 new market traders that from nowhere to cover the cost of removing £3,000 from a budget. As Councillor Mark Owen said, it's quite irresponsible financially to just use our reserves to give a pay cut to people who are on no income. I just fundamentally think that looking at the prices of markets in other towns, we are quite cheap, so cutting it more isn't going to undercut them because we already do. There's other issues there. I'm happy to look into them. I think we do need to look into them, but I don't think budgeting to use our reserves is financially responsible.
Right, so I had said I wanted Councillor Kerr to sum up, but I will take one more comment from Councillor Johnson, and then I'll ask Councillor Kerr, and I won't accept any more comments.
So just to confirm what Councillor Roberts was saying, a reduction in the market stall fees, but then marketing on top, which is that an additional cost? So pushing the market, is that what I'm understanding from that?
So
just to be clear, all we can discuss and change is the fees and the fees and charges. Just quick note: we're looking at a budget of in the region of £6 million on top of Llwyd Mansion, which will put £3 million through our books either next year and the year after, to be having a discussion about £3,500 to this sort of extent. I just ask members to be mindful of or talk about material issues at this point, please.
Okay, so sum up and then we'll move to the vote.
It's just on reserves. What the council did, and what Shropshire Council did and then didn't abide to, was to set a prudent level of reserves. And I'm sure the clerk and the chief finance officer would tell it's around 1.3 million. As long as we're £3,000 over that, the council has said that is the appropriate level of reserves. It's almost the same level as Shropshire Council's got these days, but we keep to that level of reserves. What are reserves for? Reserves are for funding one-off activities, so you can do this and see if it works. If it does work, you then build it into your budget. So I've been saying some of the other ideas could have been funded from reserves. That's what they're there for. Therefore, as reserve powers. We've also got £2 million, of course, in capital reserves. So we're not hard up as a council. If you want to know what's on one at Shropshire Council, it hasn't been the fact that they spent £3,000. If I take you back to a meeting we had a few meetings ago, we had a proposal come to here to look at works to market building. We approved that. I think the clerk says the actual cost of that is around 4,000 or so to actually commission the work to do that. So we seem to be happy to do that and fund that from reserves because there's no budget for it, but you seem to be tripping up over this. By all means say there's different things. We've had a year to bring forward different things. The market is suffering. You haven't brought forward anything different. Here is, and I think your words are exactly right, Councillor Wilson, this is a hook. Admittedly, it's a hook to try and resell the market, re-stimulate interest in the market, and it would be, I think, to the detriment of the town to not accept it.
Okay, so that's your sum up. So all those in favour of the amendments?
First, the process is, has that amendment been accepted by, because you proposed budget, James, so are you accepting the amendment?
Are you accepting?
No, the amendments, any of it? Okay. So there we go, so we've got the amendment, so it's the budget. Councillor Kerr, all of the budget, or just the addition? Yeah, that's what I was, that's what I was proposing to do.
Yeah.
That's what,
Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's not been accepted by Councillor Owen, so is there a seconder for Councillor Kerr's amendment?
Yeah, I'm happy to second it. That's fine. I'm sure it'll just fall. But the thing that I wanted to confirm, can we take it in two parts? I think the market thing and then the 70,000 for, I think one of them potentially is a revenue generator, which I think is very important when it comes to future precepts, that we'll have an opportunity to then obviously have more users of the mini golf, the tennis, so on and so forth, so we can charge more for them and potentially offset future precept rises. So I think that's good. Whereas the market one, although I agree with it, arguably costs the council money. So I think taking them both on the same thing is maybe another way to go. So I'd suggest separating them out just as far as the voting, so that people can vote on something that's going to save money versus something that's going to cost money.
Councillor Kerr, you wish to?
Happy with that. I'm also asking for a recorded vote on either both votes or one vote, however it's done. I don't have a view.
Okay, so if Councillor Kerr accepts that as an amendment, then it can just go to the vote and it's done.
Right, okay, so it's been moved and seconded in two parts. We will, and if it's been requested, and presumably Councillor Kerr is happy for a recorded vote as well, so we'll go for a recorded vote for the first part for the market fees.
Can I just, from the discussion are we likely to move towards agreeing, so once this is proceeded, are we likely to go towards members maybe to sort of finish this discussion and debate, as then more to come in? Just a question.
Budget
Yeah.
amendment.
Yeah, are there any more amendments?
No, okay. So, we'll go round the table twice. We'll go on the proposal to adjust the rent charges for the outdoor market to £10 for Zone 1. Councillor Kerr, I think it's Zone 2, 15 and 12. Zone 3, 20 and 15. That would be a pilot for a year with funded from...
It's 12-12 on Zone 2, actually, not 15-12.
So from 17 to 12.
No, I've got 13-10 and 13-60 on Zone 2.
Zone 2.
Unless I've got it wrong, in which case it will be £15. If you've got it at £17, it will reduce to £15.
So we will go round the table then. One by one, please say whether you're in favour, against, or whether you can abstain. The first one is on the market rent. Councillor Goodlad.
Against.
Oh, hang on, I need to be writing this down. Okay, you're against. Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Baldwin.
Against.
Councillor Johnson.
Against.
Councillor Owen.
Against.
Councillor Mark Owen.
I was going to say that was Wendy. Against. Not very much.
And then we've got Councillor Elmet. Councillor James Owen.
Against.
Councillor Froggatt.
For.
Councillor Kerr.
For.
Councillor Fiona Wilson.
For.
Councillor Jay Moore.
For.
Councillor Mark Roberts.
For.
Councillor Dave Walker.
Against.
Okay, so that motion has fallen. So the second motion was to include second amendment was to include a sum of £70,000 allocated towards improving particularly tennis courts and other sports facilities in high-class parks. The inclusion of a £70,000 budget which would be funded from Smithfield Capital receipts. So we'll do the same, go in the same order. Councillor Goodlad.
Against.
Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Borman.
Against.
Against.
Johnson. Okay. Councillor Wendy Owen.
Against.
Councillor Mark Owen.
Against.
Councillor Richard Elmet.
Against.
Councillor James Owen.
Against.
Councillor Froggatt.
For.
Councillor Kerr. Councillor Fiona Wilson.
For.
Councillor Jay Moore.
For, but laughing away, just like, oh, it's great. I'll just say, yeah, what are we going to vote? What are we going to vote? Just keep wasting everybody's time. I'm going to.
For the purposes of the meeting, Councillor J. Moore's leaving the room.
Councillor Mark.
For.
Councillor Dave Walker.
Against.
Councillor Upton.
Yeah, the chair.
I'm abstaining on both of those.
Okay, so the motions have fallen. So the next point is to, if we're going towards agreeing the budget, do you want me to read through the figures? Are you happy?
Would the group benefit from the town clerk reading the figures?
Well, yes, because you have agreed. Yes, they have agreed. So let's just make sure that we've got them all in there for the minutes. Sandra. So we have a setting a preset of £815,978. Fees and charges are set out in the report. including the big amendment to that is the inclusion of overnight parking charge at £1.20. There was a motion earlier to include £40,000 for the projects associated with the LC WIP into the Smithfield spend. So in report on page 8, that will change from 578 to 618. You rejected the 70,000 for Kaigrass Park. And I think that's it. So is there anything else that I may have missed in that discussion? Because there's a good chance that I have.
Does anyone else wish to add anything, or shall we just proceed to the vote?
So the other bit that we haven't got to was a proposal made by Councillor Mark Roberts about investigating the feasibility of 9 to 5 parking. I suggest that perhaps that wasn't for this agenda item, and if we want to bring it forward as a motion, then it might be a better way of doing it, especially given where we're at. If that's, yeah, is that okay? Yeah, okay. Is that all right with everybody? Yeah. Okay.
Request recorded vote again, please.
Yeah. So can I have a different colour? Anybody got a different colour pen?
Just to check, do you have a seconder?
So what? It's been withdrawn. We're not going back.
Oh, we're not doing.
So at the start, Councillor James Owen supported the budget, took that as a proposal. Is there a seconder?
Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Goodlad. Okay. So Councillor Kidman requests a recorded vote. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to run the order in the same way.
Let's just proceed.
So, Councillor Goodlad, are you?
Grace Goodlad for.
Councillor Simmons.
Councillor Ruth Simmons for.
For.
Councillor Johnson.
For.
Wendy Owen.
For.
Mark Owen.
For.
Richard Elmer.
For.
James Owen.
For.
Stephen Foggett.
Against.
Duncan Kerr.
Against.
Fiona Wilson.
I'm sorry, I've just got to stop this for a moment to understand, and I really apologise.
Sorry.
Is this what we agreed with you at the seminar, or have we added huge amounts?
So the difference between this and the seminar is £110,000 worth of spend that was discussed in the motions, notice of motions.
I'm so sorry, I was just wondering where.
On the 40,000.
Against.
Councillor Jay Moore is absent. Councillor Mark Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Dave Walker.
For.
And Councillor Upton.
For.
I think that concludes the budget.
Right. Thank you, everybody. We got through that. Now, I'm conscious it's 21:23, and we have the time limit of 21:30 hours. Does anyone wish to move that we continue past this just to get through these last couple of items?
No.
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 Let's get there.
Right up. Right up. Item 10, Shropshire Council updates. You all know who you are. Have you got anything to add?
Would it be okay if we added that to the next item on the agenda?
Yes.
Yep. Item 11, expression of interest, Shropshire School Library Services.
I'm only bringing this out of courtesy. Realistically, there's no way that we can deliver this service on your behalf. It's right I bring it forward, but there's no way I could support or recommend that you did this.
Note with regret, I think, isn't it?
Okay.
Yep, all right. All those in favour of moving, we note. Carried. Thank you. Item 12, sundry creditors, that is, to adopt the below statements of accounts approved for payments by nominated members, SC 677/25 and SC 678/25. Any comments?
To adopt.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? Last item on the agenda, job description of the town clerk.
In hindsight, probably not the best time to bring this agenda item forward. It was, I was instructed and approved. Yeah, I was going to suggest you move it to another agenda, but if you want to deal with it, happy to deal with it.
Councillor Kirk.
I'm on the appraisal panel with Councillor Radford for this. It was our view that the job description needs updating and needs a review, and therefore our request from both of us is that we send to Shropshire Council HR for evaluation, and then it will come back to us, and I hope that can be endorsed by the council.
Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mark Owen. All those in favour? Carried. Meeting over.
Speedy ending, if nothing else.
Yeah.